The EU's chief Brexit negotiator, Michel Barnier, says it remains to be seen whether a post-Brexit trade deal can be agreed as the Prime Minister prepares for a crunch phone call with the European Commission President, Ursula von der Leyen. Mr Barnier is travelling back to Brussels after negotiations in London were paused last night, both sides saying significant divergences remain.
Well, negotiating teams have been struggling to reach a compromise over fisheries, so-called level playing field rules for fair competition, and on the issue of how a deal will be enforced. Let's listen to what Mr Barnier had to say as he left London in the last hour.
Good morning, Monsieur Barnier.
Hello,
what will you be saying to President von der Leyen?
Good morning.
Good morning.
We keep calm, as always, and if there is still a way, we will see. Huh? Thank you. Au revoir.
Is all hope of a deal lost, Mr Barnier? Monsieur Barnier, is there any chance of a deal?
Many thanks. If there is still a way, we will see. Huh? Good. Au revoir.
Our political correspondent Rob Powell is in Westminster, but first let's go to Brussels and our Europe correspondent Adam Parsons. Well, ever the diplomat, I guess, Adam, not getting much out of Michel Barnier today.
I have been in that position many times of trying to cajole Mr Barnier into saying something decisive, and it is tough, but he knows that he's going back to a big meeting with Ursula von der Leyen, and I think that whatever Mr Barnier says to Mrs von der Leyen will be very illustrative. Something else I noticed in the background there were two other people, Clara Martinez Alberola, Paulina Gemet-Hack, who are Mr Barnier's two deputies. That means that effectively the top negotiating team are going out of London and heading back to Brussels. And I think clearly the telephone call between Ursula von der Leyen and Boris Johnson today will be crucial. What has happened here is that Mr Barnier has reached the edge of his so-called mandate. What is that? Well, it's a set of guidelines and restrictions that were given to him on day one about effectively you can go this far and no further. And a couple of days ago on Wednesday, he was called to a meeting of EU ambassadors, and he was told that, in the opinion of some, notably, I have to say the French, the Dutch, the Belgians, the Danes, even the Spanish, they thought he was getting too near the edge of that mandate. Effectively, he was giving away too much, which tells you quite a lot that those are significant voices who think that Mr Barnier has gone as far as they want him to. So on the flip side of that, if the UK is saying we need more concessions, there is not a lot of wriggle room. That's why he couldn't go any further. That's why it will need leaders like Mr von der Leyen, like Boris Johnson, to come up with a compromise, but a warning that while Boris Johnson has got Parliament, who would have to ratify anything that he agrees, Ursula von der Leyen has got the leaders of all those EU member states, notably Emmanuel Macron in France. There is still a lot of wriggling and politics and diplomacy before a deal can be done. And, of course, time is exceptionally short.
OK, Adam, thank you. Let's head to Westminster then and Rob Powell. Is there a sense in all this, Rob, that the Prime Minister has got the stronger hand here because of the domestic politics here and the general election win in December, that he just cannot be seen to back down on much of this, can he?
Well, I think practically the Prime Minister may be in a stronger position in terms of getting the Brexit deal practically approved in this Parliament because, of course, in the EU, as Adam's been saying, France could veto it. I think realistically, here in Westminster, when there is a vote on that deal, it's hard to see it not passing. Of course, a big part of that is what the Labour Party does. And I have to say it's very hard to see Labour opposing that deal because that would potentially open the door to a no-deal outcome. But it's still politically perilous for Boris Johnson. He still needs to make sure he doesn't do a deal that is seen to sell out some of the core principles of Brexit that he has been fighting for over the years. And don't forget that some of the MPs here in Westminster who are agitating against the coronavirus restrictions are some of the MPs that are most in favour of a more distant relationship with the European Union as well. And I think that's part of the reason why, yes, there is still substantial differences and there may have to be movement. There will have to be movement on a political level from Boris Johnson and Ursula von der Leyen. But at the same time, that's why I think we are seeing the most made out of this pause and the degree of theatrics and briefing in the papers this morning around requests from the French, around the UK pushing back harsh words against some of those requests. Because frankly, it works for both sides. It works for the French because Emmanuel Macron needs to show that he is not selling out his fishing industry. It works for Boris Johnson as well because he needs to show that he is battling for this Brexit deal. I think in reality, it's not necessarily a case of who blinks first. Both sides will need to blink a little bit, but it is hard to sell any climb downs to a sceptical home crowd in this context. I think fudges are more difficult, and that's why the prospect of no deal can never be completely ruled out.